Now, the other thing we need to look at in this country is that we have an onshore tax rate of 30 cents, and that's before franking credits that I'll come to in a minute. And depending on the withholding tax treaty that you're dealing with, and depending on where that money's sent, that withholding tax rate on profits transferred offshore can be between 0 and 15 cents in the dollar if it's with one of our recognised trading partners. Now, that is basically encouraging any company to either set up a subsidiary offshore or to transfer their profits offshore. And that is ridiculous. And we saw it a few years ago with the iron ore companies. What they did is, obviously, if they kept their earnings here in Australia, they'd pay 30 cents. So they decided to set up a marketing hub in Singapore, whereby they could pay marketing fees to Singapore. What Singapore knows about marketing iron ore is beyond me. It's not like they've ever had any iron ore. But suddenly the BHP and Rio and Fortescue decided that they needed to set up a marketing hub in Singapore. And of course that was nothing more than a tax dodge, and I'm glad to say that the tax office did get on to those iron ore companies about it and they've shut them down. But this sort of behaviour goes on all the time. We've seen it with Pfizer, for example. Their operating profit ratio is 7%, despite the fact that their worldwide operating profit was 40%. And of their $1.4 billion in sales, about $1 billion of it got transferred to Ireland. Why Ireland? Pfizer Ireland, who I doubt would actually have a manufacturing plant, why that money needed to go to Ireland is beyond me, other than the fact that Ireland has a company tax rate of 12%. So it's very simple logic. If you get a tax deduction here, you save 30 cents in a dollar, you send the money to a low-income tax jurisdiction and you pay 12 cents there. Now, many people will say, well, you can't have withholding tax on profits sent offshore because you'll have double taxation. That's not the way it works. What you actually got to look at is the cumulative rate of taxation. So if there's a withholding tax rate of 10 cents here in Australia on profits sent to Ireland, and Ireland has a company tax rate of 12 cents, the cumulative rate of taxation is 10 plus 12, 22 cents. It's less than 30 cents. So there's an 8-cent arbitrage there for the sake of paying a lawyer to set up a subsidiary, putting an office over there and effectively transferring profits offshore. And that sort of behaviour goes on quite a lot. And while I know the tax office does a very good job and tries very hard to crack down on it, they literally cannot keep up with the amount of international transactions going on. And that is why the very easy way to do all this and deal with this in a heartbeat is to effectively increase the rate of withholding tax on all profits sent offshore. There's more tax treaties than you could put a stick at, unfortunately, and I haven't been able to go through all of them, even though actually, after I finished my Masters of Tax Law, I actually went back and did another subject at the University of Sydney just to come up to speed with it. But this sort of stuff, you just can't keep up with it. Put a higher withholding tax rate offshore and lower the company tax here so that we encourage people and companies to retain their earnings here in Australia rather than shift the profits offshore. And you will find that, like anyone that understands the balance sheet, if you increase your retained earnings, you'll have a higher capital account and you'll need less debt. So it's actually one of these things that will help encourage reduce foreign debt in this country.
Authorised G. Rennick People First Chermside.